Welcome to MTG Evolving Wild. I'm Mark.
I'm Cody.
I am Ron.
You guys certainly are. Um, Today we're going to be talking about universes beyond within Magic the Gathering, what it means, what it is, the pros and cons of it, maybe moving forward, and what we think it's going to look like just going forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for real. But I think we should probably explain to some people who don't know, or maybe to clarify what we're talking about, what constitutes a universe beyond product.
So, Universes Beyond, as it's defined on the Wikipedia page, is a series that combines the gameplay of Magic the Gathering with worlds, characters, and stories of other intellectual properties. I even parenthesized that in the notes. I'm like, what does
Nice.
IP stand for? But intellectual properties. So basically, stuff beyond what Wizards of the Coast owns, just like Street Fighter's been an example. Doctor Who's coming up.
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Upcoming Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. A lot of exciting kind of crossover event kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it in previous episodes, but now we're kind of going to go a little bit more into it.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to say exactly where it started, but I think a lot of people would say like the first stepping point towards the universes beyond kind of system was the unique Godzilla cards in Ikoria, and those were originally just reskins of cards that already existed in the set, but as characters from the like Godzilla universe.
What's funny is I feel like you never actually see the creatures that they're reskinning, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You always see the Godzilla ones.
And funny enough, there's kind of this weird thing that happened where I think whatever card is like the Gruul Godzilla card, that was never actually, like, the original version of that card was never actually printed in paper. It was like only printed as Godzilla, and then it has like the name underneath, but that named card was never physically printed. It's in MTG Arena though.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
in Arena, and I think the first time we actually see a paper printing of it is in the new set on the back of one of the battles.
Really?
What?
Yeah, it says Godzilla, King of the Monsters. It's Zalortha, Strength Incarnate.
Yeah, Zalortha Strength Incarnate, as far as I know, hasn't been printed yet.
No, Zalortha has been printed on the back of Invasion of Ikoria, I want to say.
Oh, that's right. That's actually pretty cool. I didn't realize that. Is
Yeah,
that
but it's a battle, so no one really cares about the backside. We only care about the front side
the
effect
front
when
side
it comes
is
in.
a really good tutor, so
Yeah, the backside is,
It is.
Zalortha, Apex of Ikoria.
yeah, okay. So they did print a Zalortha, but it wasn't the original Godzilla one, and I don't know if we'll ever see a reprint of that, or that's just a weird point in time where they did that and then moved on. But where I guess officially it's claimed that Universes Beyond started was the Secret Lair Walking Dead. Those that don't know, a Secret Lair is basically a product that Wizards of the Coast will sell from their own website that they print to order and is only available for a limited time. Is there anything I'm missing kind of on those details? They have
I mean, I know recently, especially after the controversy with the Commander decks that happened that we'll get into later, they are starting to pre-print things as well and kind of doing
okay.
a second run after, depending on what demand calls for.
Okay, that's good. I think that's definitely a step in a better direction rather than print to order.
But there are more controversies with Secret Lair.
Secret Lairs are a whole can of worms, which we may or may not get into more in this episode. But the first official Universes Beyond product was the Secret Lair Walking Dead. I think it's a really interesting point in time because that's right when I was starting to get into Magic, and it was one of the main talking points on kind of the internet at the time about maybe why people are starting to get out of Magic, because this product was completely, I think for the first time, completely unique cards printed into secret layers that were not planning on getting any kind of reprint or any kind of guarantee on any kind of reprint. It was like, this is happening right now, print to demand, and if you can't get it in time, you don't get your order in time, or you don't get it shipped to you, or you need a play set or something, like these are going to be really hard to track down. So there was a lot of controversy about that, a lot of just people not wanting to support Wizards of the Coast, and as a result, like, it was one of the things that slowed me down. Like, I still ended up getting into Magic, but it was one of the things where I was like, all right, maybe I take a step back from this and don't like impulse buy something right now, because this is pretty serious. But yeah, so they've gone on after the fact to say that they have wanted to retroactively print these cards in Wizards of the Coast's own intellectual properties.
Right. I mean, which they've done with other secret layers in the
Yes.
future, but with this one, yeah, we still have yet to see a lot of these cards, and some of which actually go fantastic in a lot of really popular deck archetypes and playstyles.
And because of the fact that there's no guarantee on where or when they'll be printed next, some of these cards are at like $40, and I don't know exact prices on all of them, but they're
very expensive.
they're more expensive than they need to be, is the bottom line.
Right.
But yeah, so that secret lair was widely pretty much hated. Like, I don't think anyone was a big fan of it.
I don't know that it was hated to the scale of Magic's 30th anniversary.
Okay,
but
that's fair.
Yeah.
but there it was definitely a lot of backlash in the
Yeah.
community from it.
So what were we gonna say?
Sorry, but I don't know. I had a really interesting first experience with the Walking Dead Secret Lair. Like, I don't know if you remember that group we played with a long time ago with my friend Brandon, with the Slivers guy. And anyway, so I went there a little while before, and the host ended up. He basically showed me the secret lair and everything, and I had no idea what a secret lair was at the time. It was probably like my second or third time playing Commander ever, and I kind of saw it, and honestly I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. I didn't really think about the context of it, about how these are going to be super desirable pieces or moderately desirable pieces that are not going to be accessible to the vast majority of the players. But, from an outsider looking, I'm like, cool. This is like an accessible point, another cool access point. Because I think we talked about how D&D got me into Magic the Gathering. And I'm pretty sure, like, maybe not with just a secret lair, but something about Universes Beyond, and even with The Walking Dead, maybe people can see their favorite characters as cards and maybe say, oh, that's cool. What's this whole game about?
Exactly. And something that is kind of an important distinction to make between what happened with the Godzilla cards in Ikoria and with the Walking Dead Secret Lair is that the Ikoria Godzilla cards were reskins of other cards, given you could still just like get them in regular booster packs, so it's not like they were limited run. But if this Walking Dead Secret Lair were reskins of cards that you could get anyways, I don't think anyone would have a problem with it, because it would just be like a cool art treatment of like, your favorite characters on Magic cards. And, of course that I think is a really exciting idea, just getting to have crossovers like that and get to have your favorite characters that like, it almost feels like Super Smash Bros, where it's like, your favorite character from this video game that you played as a kid or something is now a playable character in Smash Bros, and it's like, that's so awesome. It has the potential to be just like that, but the fact that this release was like a run that was so. I mean, after it was done, it was done. Like, there's no one can just go and like buy a new pack of it because it was print to order kind of thing. So that was the first thing that was considered Universes Beyond. Moving forward from that, they did Stranger Things Universes Beyond. And this is kind of where they started implementing, like actually implementing the universes within kind of policy, which is making reprints of the cards in a set around 6 months after the Secret Lair goes
I
on
want to
sale.
say that it was like 3 months after the Secret Lair came out. Like it was available in like the very next
Or set.
core set that came out. Like I think it came out sometime around Kamigawa, and by New Capenna you had list cards that were
Right.
the universes within equivalent of the Stranger Things Secret Lair.
Yeah, the Stranger Things Secret Lair universes within cards were in New Capenna in the list slot of set boosters.
And going further still, because like you can still pull them. I think
is
they're
that?
still in the list. I think.
Okay, that's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I
But,
didn't know
yeah,
that.
either way, they're re-releasing the Secret Lair exclusive cards with in-game counterparts. Or
in-universe counterparts, which is obviously a great thing because if any of these cards like happen to, I don't know, some new card comes out that's like the perfect synergy between that and something else, and all of a sudden they're like $100 a card, like they have the option to reprint these cards whenever they want with their their own intellectual properties instead of having to like try to make some kind of thing work with other people's intellectual properties and getting that all figured out.
Right.
So that was I think a big positive once they implemented that policy of like creating the universes within IPs. And then after that, there was Secret Lair Arcane. That one was exclusively reskins of cards, which again, I don't think anyone has a problem with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just alternate arts.
Alternate arts, yeah, very cool. And I believe in those cases they have the names of the actual cards underneath the names of the reskins.
Kind of like what happened with Godzilla, with Zalortha,
yeah.
but these cards actually existed in paper.
Yeah, and I watched Arcane. I really liked that show. I don't play any League of Legends really, but that show was awesome.
The show was really good. Yeah.
I haven't seen it, so it didn't really speak much to me. But
I didn't really like the Secret. This is like a personal opinion. I didn't really like the Secret Lair because even though I liked the show, a lot of the cards they chose to use were more they weren't legendary creatures, so it wasn't like you were getting to play with your favorite characters. It was like
No, but they reprinted Ristic Study in it, which was a
they
big
did.
deal.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know because I haven't seen the show, but maybe it seems like it's depicting like key moments that happened in the show. Like there's Path to Exile, and it has all the flavor text.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It depicted
It's a
certain
lot of
key moments, but
Yeah, no,
maybe
these
it just
are-
didn't resonate with me.
Yeah,
but
these are kind of just good cards.
Yeah, no, it was a
it was
great
good
reprint.
cards with the reskin for Arcane. Like that was
Yeah, no, nothing wrong with that at all. I just like personally don't think it stood out to me. But
Round 2 Seize the Day, I think, is pretty cool.
yeah. Then after that, they did the Secret Lair for Street Fighter.
Ooh, that got me excited.
Yes.
I've been a Street Fighter fan for a while, and this was my first time where I'm like, oh, sweet. Like, they're doing an IP that I care about.
Yeah.
So
Besides D&D, of course.
So you did get the Secret Lair.
Yes, sir.
So just curious, because they did also do a Universes Within redo for it for the list that came out, I want to say like 2 or 3 sets ago.
Something like that.
Do you
Somewhere
know
around
like
there.
what the timeline was on that, or?
I don't off the top of my head. We do have one of the cards with us.
Yeah, we have. Well, it doesn't say what the original card was on
The original
it.
card was Blanca.
Okay.
That I remember, because he's the Gruul guy.
Yeah, we have the Howling Abomination. It has the little star symbol on it. so we don't know. I don't think we know what set it's from, which is really convenient.
Or maybe that means
it
from
came
the
out in
lens?
All Will Be One. I do
All
know.
Will Be One?
Yeah, because I got
okay.
I got one of those as well.
You're right.
Okay.
That sounds correct. But so what? The Secret Lair. I don't remember exactly
Let's
when the
see.
Street Fighter Secret Lair was out.
Let me look it up.
Sure, but I remember when I first got it, I was super excited because it felt like I was already into the game because of the D&D sets, and now this was kind of like the first time where I was specifically like, well, you know what, the cards mechanically, I didn't really care about them. I think they did pretty niche things, and you could build good and powerful decks around each of them, but they didn't feel like cards that went in the 99 of any of my personal decks.
I'm not exactly sure when when they got delivered, but it looks
took a
like
little while.
So February Super Drop 2022. So it would have been early 2022 that they released the Secret Lair on their Secret Lair website.
And I think I might have gotten it a month or two after that. Not as bad as the Commander deck. But
Yeah. So that was and then there was that Commander deck, but that's a whole other
thing.
But yeah, so a couple months after you ordered it, you got it, and then they released these universes within versions of the cards. Maybe 3.
Looks like a year later.
No way.
February 22 for Street Fighter. We got it in 1, which came out in like February, I want to say.
Maybe it was a whole year. Wow. Well,
I mean, regardless, it got the reprint
February 10th, 2023.
Ultimately, we got the reprint of it, even if it was a little bit behind. Like, I think it's good that they had that. Like, and obviously, you'd like them to be a little quicker with those reprints, but it's good that they're available now.
Just happy that they're reprinted at all.
Exactly.
Honestly,
And the interesting thing is that the reprints, they're pretty dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
They reprint them all the time. As I said, they don't do anything particularly crazy or broken. And I'm really happy that I have the Secret Lair that I do. Even if the cards themselves, I don't have them in any decks or anything. I kind of just have them to look at. Mm-hmm. And eventually I may want to build their own little format within each other. But seriously, I think that it's a really healthy thing that they're doing.
I think with Street Fighter, they kind of nailed that one as well. This next one, I'm actually extremely disappointed that I missed. I think I missed it by a day or two. There was the Secret Lair Fortnite, and that was exclusively reskins of a bunch of cards that I really wanted, especially Battle Royale, which is Triumph of the Hordes.
Yeah. Because it's toxic.
I freaking love Fortnite. I love it so much. It's so ridiculous, and I feel like it kind of fills that same kind of space where it's like I want to play with like this character that I know from a different IP that I just like playing, like The Witcher or like Doom Guy, and like I just get to like run around the map and like do silly stuff. And I love Fortnite. I missed this by a couple days. This is the only Secret Lair that I definitely would have gotten and ordered, but I just I missed it by a few days.
I have a question. So if Wizards of the Coast can get the right to use Fortnite and all their things, can they use all the other IPs attached so we can get Secret Lair Fortnite Witcher, Secret Lair
I wish.
Fortnite Darth Vader,
but Secret Lair Fortnite Goku?
I don't know if like we've already been able to connect the dots, but now that there's like Fortnite Magic the Gathering cards, I think there's probably a connection to connect like Jace to like easily to Batman, but like probably Jace to like SpongeBob if you like do enough like connections and stuff like that, like
SpongeBob would multimedia beat Jace every time.
Web. SpongeBob probably would be Jace. I'm waiting for a SpongeBob Secret Lair. I'd shell out tons for that.
When are we getting Chandra in Fortnite?
Chandra in Fortnite. I know that's the other thing we're waiting on, but I don't know if that crossover is ever going to happen. So the next secret lair, and this is where things change quite a bit, is the Warhammer 40k one. And I haven't gotten to play with any of the commander decks. They released 4 commander decks with a total of 168 mechanically unique cards, and as well as like reskins of older cards. And these mechanically unique cards are not being reprinted in universes within product. At least doesn't have. There's no official plans to do so. It's just, and I think that's a little. I mean, it might be okay, because you could still potentially go out and buy like a Warhammer Commander deck, but yeah, 168 completely new cards that don't have universes within counterparts, so may or may not be reprinted depending on what happens.
I will say, I mean, they've been out for quite a few months now, and they're still readily available at the local game stores around us. They're admittedly slightly more expensive than when they first came out, but it's nothing egregious.
Yeah, you can still get them. Right now, it's not like the too big of a deal, and it's not like every one of those 168 mechanically unique cards are like extremely expensive, but there are some that are starting to creep up in the $20-ish range, and will only keep going higher as the cards don't get reprinted.
Well, I think like everything else in Magic, because you can look at some of the core sets, you can, there's expensive cards all over that don't always see reprints to drive the price down. So, like I think we'll see universes within reskin on these mechanically unique cards at some point in time, because it just
Hopefully.
makes sense for Wizards to, like put these back out there so that you can keep, inventory and price high, and like it's going to drive people to buy, certain products because, oh, I can get this card in that product.
And I will say, we would really be missing out if those cards weren't reprinted, because, Cody and I did get to play in a game of
So much fun.
It was a great time. Yeah, everything felt so flavor accurate. Like from all the new cards to the reprints, everything just felt so lore friendly, and it was just a fun game.
Yeah, and they were all really well balanced with each other. Like there was no deck that was clearly head and shoulders above the other ones at the table.
Imperium of Man was pretty great.
Oh, absolutely. But, like you were kind of really grinding out the value until you hit a couple top decks that just set you over the top.
It was a fantastic win that I love to talk about.
The Chaos Marines, like had a chance to do their things, were very threatening. The Tyranids got huge and massive. The Necrons were, doing Necron-y things.
Yeah, they were dying and being evil and causing other things to die. But man, that was crazy when I had that one card. There was a 36/36 Tyranid attacking me for lethal damage. I had no board. I had one instant in my hand that makes a target player sacrifice an attacking creature they control, and I make X 1/1 soldiers, where X is its power. And he had that one creature. I had this big board state now. He had nothing. And then I top decked a miracle card that was a big X spell that let me make a whole bunch of flying. I think they were Adeptus Sororitas.
Oh,
so
nice.
it just felt like such a flavor win of like the guard, the Astra Militarum just coming in just for the rescue and then getting backed up by the like sisters, man.
Right.
It's fantastic.
And it's awesome, I think, that there's like people who play Warhammer that can, get into this game and like really see the characters they're familiar with represented in Magic the Gathering. And then, vice versa, like Magic the Gathering players might identify with like a certain group or faction or card that they like didn't know about in Warhammer, and kind of explore that a little more. The fact that the gameplay was great and everything was really balanced and really awesome is such a cool thing. And the fact that they're doing it at all is awesome. problem really is the logistics of what could happen, or that's the or belief by some, is that the whatever happens in the future, like if there needs to be a reprint, it might be difficult to do so. A couple more things worth mentioning about it is that there are unique creature types that are also under the IP, like Astartes.
Necrons have their own
Necrons.
type. Tyranids.
Yeah, those are going to be changed if they ever reprint anything from this set to a different thing altogether, which will be interesting to see what they come up with.
So does this mean? I don't know if this is a question we're going to talk about later, but would this mean that they are mechanically different cards for the purposes of singleton formats like Commander?
No. And here's the fun part, which I think I just kind of realized this and want to talk a little about it more later on. Let's say, I have a deck, a mono white bird deck, and I think this is a great time to bring my mono white bird deck up.
Every time is a great time to bring up the birds.
Also, don't let Mark lie on the pod. It is not a mono white bird deck. It is a mono white landfall deck.
There are 2 cards that say landfall.
But aren't they like birds or something?
Yeah, one of the cards is like, whenever a land enters, you make a bird. So I suppose that's landfall, making birds.
It's birdfall.
Birdfall. So in that deck, I have a bunch of anthems, or a bunch of like cards that say give whatever type of creature +1/+1. Some of those cards require you to specify a creature type. So I'm seeing a world where there's a person playing with whatever Astartes card, and then they have a reprint of a different Astartes card, but it's called, I don't know, Tough Guy. And
I don't know, Tough Guy.
I don't know, Tough Guy is the creature type. And the creature type that's chosen to give everything +1/+1 is Astartes, let's say.
Sure.
Now it's like, okay, I'm playing a Tough Guy card, and that Tough Guy has +1/+1. But wait, like, what? How is that? It makes weird logistical rules things potentially.
Yeah, they're very niche, but they're possible to
Yeah.
come up.
Yeah, but I mean, there's things that are like more common in Magic that we still have to look up, especially in a eternal format,
Right.
that, because cards were never meant to interact with each other in that way, because, they're multiple sets apart. So like there's things that we have to look up anyway. It's not that crazy.
Yeah.
And then another thing about Warhammer 40K is that there were additionally 3 secret layers related to Warhammer under that IP that are exclusively reskins. So not too much drama there. Just like,
I really don't think that there's any drama
Yeah,
with the
the
reskins.
reskins are-
Same points as Arcane, except
Yeah.
this time, instead of depicting like key moments in the story or something, you did get to see a lot of cool legendary creatures.
yeah.
Like it was like Nazgul, who was another guy like Zergo Helm Smasher. Like that could not have been more perfect or more fitting.
Najila got one.
Najila got. I think it was like Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar. I'm not too much into that, so.
But it was
I don't
still
know
a
too
really
much.
cool reprint.
Yes.
Okay, so following Warhammer, they had Transformers, which was Universes Beyond. And this one was interesting to me because I think, well, for one, since Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, this one probably wouldn't be the hardest one to get reprinted if they absolutely needed to reprint one of these cards. They're 15. So this is kind of, it's closer to the Ikoria thing that happened, where they just had these cards found in boosters of a product that you can, kind of just get off the shelves. I don't have as big of an issue with that because it's just like, easily accessible to get your hands on like whichever one of these Transformers you want. Some of them aren't too expensive. Again, some of them you can pull in packs. It's kind of more closely related to how regular Magic cards are expensive or non-expensive, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting point that, this isn't technically the first time we've seen Transformers in Magic, because there were the silver bordered cards.
Oh,
There was the silver bordered Optimus Prime, and I believe the other one was the T Rex guy. Grimlock. Yeah, the boy. He's awesome.
uh-huh.
And I don't know, those were funny because they also flipped, but it literally said as part of the casting cost, you literally had to transform a Transformers toy you owned into its other position to get it off.
That's so cool.
It's cool, but those cards are really expensive now, and I don't know. It's just interesting that you get to see it like for real this time.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to rule zero anything in. You can just play with like Transformers cards in the command zone or like on
Yeah,
the
and
like
I
in
think-
stand.
and
Well,
I-
not in standard, but
Yeah, and I think those silver border cards were either like given to employees or it was only at a convention or something exclusive.
these are more
too.
readily available. In addition, 3 secret layers that are exclusively reskins. Very cool, very cool. Couple more here. There's the Dungeons and Dragons movie secret lair, which I think just stopped taking orders like a week ago. Like
A couple weeks ago, I think.
couple weeks ago. I remember we were talking about it because you're
I
on the
almost
brink
bought
of
it.
yeah.
Because I mentioned that I've been building a Dungeons and Dragons sort of set cube, and I was not sure whether I want to include these in there or not. But ultimately, I decided not to for reasons. Just because I'm like, do I really need these cards?
It's so Wizards of the Coast also owns D&D, so it's not an issue of the actual IP as much as it is an issue of the actors portrayed. So that's
Yes.
why it would still kind of, I think, be classified under Universes Beyond. And I'm curious to see what they do with this one because I don't know if they've announced or not if they're planning on making reprints for it.
I think it would be a very likely candidate.
I mean, worst case scenario, they could always do it where they did like the Dominaria stained glass treatment,
Oh,
or
true.
like some way where they're able to do more of like a rough sketching of the character,
Yeah.
Right.
than like using the actor's likeness again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that could be it, but also, I don't know, these cards, mechanically speaking, were just not particularly powerful. There was one really niche card, which was, I believe, Zank, the Paladin, that I know Mark was talking about that he really wants for his Light Paws deck.
Yes. Yes. It looks so
I
good
mean,
for
some of them looked
auras.
cool to build around. The Bard looked
Yeah, the
kinda
Bard
cool.
was basically Dream Devourer, but a legendary creature in red blue instead of black. Yeah, that was super cool. But ultimately, these are what they are, pretty niche sort of cards that really I think they still should be reprinted. But even if they don't, it's kind of not the end of the world. It's not like I don't think they're as mechanically powerful or unique as as the Walking Dead secret lair was.
I think Wizards really learned from The Walking Dead in the sense that they kind of pushed those cards a little hard in terms of like their power level. And they've kind of walked it back on a lot of the new stuff that's mechanically unique. And, like, I can't think of any card in the Warhammer set that's that pushed. Like, there's good stuff, but there's not anything that's like, oh my god, this thing is so crazy busted.
I think you might be surprised. There's some very powerful cards like that one, the Custodes Guard. I don't remember what the card name is, but it has Flash, and it just gives commanders you control protection from everything. That's very specifically made for Commander, powerful for Commander. Again, there are technically more mana efficient effects, so I don't think it'll see play in like competitive Commander or something, but still, it's like that could be a very accessible card to a lot of people, but
There's
it
a
may
lot
not
of-
be now.
Good card, but it is niche, as you were saying.
There's a lot of mechanically unique design space that I feel like, gone in with these universes beyond unique cards that they're making. And I think, that's just relevant because those cards, if they're not sought after right now, they might be sought after 5 years down the line when it's like, oh, this other card just dropped and it's a 2-card combo. And
Like with the Red Terror.
yeah, like with the Red Terror, we didn't even have to wait that long. But
Yeah, seriously, Red Terror plus All Will Be One equals win the game.
well,
Yep.
wasn't there also Red Terror plus one of the new like commanders from?
I think it was like Shalai and Halar.
That's the
Shalai
one,
and Halar,
Shalai and
yeah.
Halar. But yeah, so that's I think up to the universes beyond things that have been released so far. There are a few universes beyond things that are coming very soon. We have the Lord of the Rings set coming.
Looks awesome. I'm really excited for it.
I think it's cool. I like Lord of the Rings. Not I'm just a movies fan. I haven't really read the books, but yeah, looks cool. It is a modern set, and from the leaks we've been seeing, I've definitely been seeing some cards that are like, okay, this is going to be a staple in just about every deck that can run it in that new halfling that they announced.
Oh, that thing is
Wait,
pushed.
what was it?
Oh god, it's I think Joyous Joyous Hobbit or something like that.
It's a 1 mana creature. Taps for 1 mana of any color, and it can only be used to cast a legendary creature. And
Wait, what?
and the legendary creature, and the spell becomes uncounterable.
What?
Yep.
Okay, what's it called?
I'm trying to remember the name. I can't remember for the life of me.
Let's see if I can't find it.
I gotta look this up because this sounds insane. That's so. I mean, I want that card for a specific deck that I have, but wow, that is really good. If that's all you guys are saying, it is.
It is.
Delighted Halfling.
Delighted.
One green
Delighted.
mana for a 1/2. It taps, adds 1 colorless. You can also tap it, add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast a legendary spell, and that spell can't be countered. So it's even better because you can play like the legendary sorceries and stuff and not have those countered.
This is amazing. I need this for my legendary tribal deck.
It's a fantastic card.
Wow. Wow. Okay. That's really good. So they're printing some very, very powerful, unique cards for this Lord of the Rings set. And to go into the details of this one, so they're going to release a full. I don't know how many different variants of boxes they're going to have, but they're going to have booster boxes for this modern legal set. And I don't know how many unique cards are in there, how many are reskins, as well as 4 commander decks with 20 unique cards in each deck. So there are going to be a lot, and it seems like a huge amount of new mechanically unique cards coming out with this Lord of the Rings set. And it seems really cool. I'm a pretty big fan of the movies. I've read The Hobbit. I really like that. But I feel like there's a lot of room for error. So I'm like cautiously optimistic. I want this to go well and for it to be really liked all over. But yeah, I'm concerned.
I will say one thing that's interesting, is it really going to be that much different than if, just say, any modern set was this pushed? Or is there like a different connotation to worrying about power level once you have all these unique arts from other IPs?
What we've seen already, and again, this could be because they've, said that they can reprint something in universes within, but I'm thinking about let's use Modern Horizons 2, for example, with Ragavan. Mm-hmm. They printed Ragavan in that set, became a very expensive, very sought-after card, and just recently in March of the Machine, they reprinted Ragavan with a new border, but basically getting more copies of it out there on the market.
Brought the price down a little, still a very expensive card.
Yeah, didn't help the price much, but they were able to reprint it and kind of get more product with it in it back on shelves.
And one thing is Delighted Halfling. That could very easily be reprinted because it says Halfling. It doesn't say Hobbit. And I think that might have been intentional. Maybe they just couldn't get the rights to the word Halfling. But
Or Hobbit.
Or Hobbit.
Yeah.
I
Hobbit,
think
my
it's
bad.
intentional because Hobbit is so associated with Lord of the Rings that it can't be duplicated without paying for the licensing over and over again.
I'm sure, but because they have access to the Dungeons and Dragons IP, which halflings are a card type that have been printed already. This could totally see.
Yeah,
a reprint.
there are potentially things like this where it's like, okay, this card probably can easily see a reprint with different artwork. And maybe I don't know if there's flavor text on it, but if there is,
there's flavor text, but the flavor text actually does mention.
So they changed the flavor text. They changed some of the things about the card. I think it can be reprinted without much of an issue, without changing too much. The legendary creatures really is where, I mean, like when it's like Frodo, Gandalf, like all those characters, it's like, okay, these are getting you can't just reprint Gandalf like
Sure you could. He's just a wizard. Like,
yeah, oh yeah, I'm not saying you can't reprint, but you'd have to change things about the card. Like you can't call the reprint Gandalf.
Oh no.
Yeah. You'd have to call him like Bandolf or something. Change the name a little bit. They'll never know.
Call him Radagast. No.
So there's a lot of mechanically unique cards coming out.
Golf.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I think that's the one we know most about because that's the one that's coming up the soonest. I think later this year. Following that, they've announced that there's going to be Doctor Who Commander decks.
Super excited for it. I love Doctor Who as a franchise.
I think that one could be really cool. I think I'm more excited for the Final Fantasy one whenever that's coming out. That's been announced, and that's so down the line. But I could see myself just wanting all of the Final Fantasy cards because I have gotten so into Final Fantasy the past few years, and also Assassin's Creed.
Meh.
Yeah,
That's cool. I loved it when I was in middle school.
Same here.
Assassin's Creed 1 all the way through 3, and Brotherhood and Revelations, all of that. I enjoyed all of that. Black Flag is where I kind of started to depart from the series, but I think it's neat. But yeah, it's
we'll have to see which
I don't know who asked for this,
but
they got it.
I wonder how they're going to what they're gonna do with that. If it's gonna be like all commander decks or because how much Assassin's Creed can you really turn into cardboard?
I mean, you got your legendary creatures with Ezio.
Is there gonna be an Abstergo deck and a Templar deck and an Assassin's deck?
Yeah,
I guess they could.
They could totally do that.
Oh, that's gonna be.
Are they doing commander decks with that?
I don't know. I haven't. I don't.
I would imagine it's a secret lair.
If it's a secret lair, I could easily see that.
That's super easy.
I'm just thinking how many times can they because I feel like the protagonists are all obviously unique in their own ways, but how many times can you print the same type of assassin protagonist on the same card and have it do mechanically unique things each time?
And in different colors.
Yeah.
It's going to be an all black plus something.
Yeah. all those or all kind of in that color combination. So
could be cool.
I think that's pretty much everything that we know about right now as far as what's been announced and what has come out with Universes Beyond and this exploration into new IPs. How do you guys think that's affected just currently playing Magic? Are you ever sitting at a pod with people you don't know and they play Universes Beyond cards, and has that been good, bad, or nothing? Just
sure,
regular?
We just played a game the other day with a Shadows in the Warp, out on the board. Actually, we were playing last night, and our buddy dropped a Astartes creature.
That's right, I believe. Was that the one that gave his commander protection from everything?
No, it was the blow up an enchantment or
Ah.
artifact.
He tried to deal with my smothering tide. He could not deal with my smothering tide.
You know, they're strong abilities, but they're not like that mechanically unique in my opinion. You know, like
Yeah.
it's really no different than like someone dropping a Rex Sage, or because this was mono white, Laron of the third
Yeah,
path. You know?
Precisely.
And of course there's something to be said about like how many copies you can now run in your commander deck. But I think the more relevant point is like these reprints that are just like they're not that good, or there are other options rather. Those aren't the ones that I think could cause the most problems. It's like the mechanically unique ones, the ones that combo off with one or two other cards, like, and there, there's a few of those in each of these. Maybe not every single one of these secret layers or universes beyond ones, but there's some pretty good cards. Like you mentioned, Shadows in the Warp.
Yeah.
That's an amazing card. I really enjoy, and not that it's like necessarily great to play against it, but I think it's a good card to just have, like, be a design. Like I've enjoyed playing against it. It's been like oppressive but not so oppressive, and it seems like it's really
What does
just
the
a
card
solid-
do again?
So it whenever I think an opponent plays their first non-creature spell, it deals 2 damage to them.
I think it's any non-creature spell. It deals 2 damage to them.
Okay. Oh, is it any or the first one?
No, I think it's like it gives a discount on that player, on the owner's first non-creature spell, and then
So the first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, Shadow in the Warp deals 2 damage to that player.
oh, okay.
That is a very gruel card.
Oh, and it's only 3 mana.
Yeah,
Wow,
no,
I really
It's an expensive card though. It's going for around 17, 18
Yeah.
bucks on TCG Player.
Yeah, that's one of the big ones from the Warhammer Commander decks that is kind of creeping up in price, and I'm hoping they reprint it soon, because like this card is very fun to play against and just have on the board. And if more people have access to that, then we get more games with a card like that in there.
I think you're gonna have to wait for them to stop having stock available for the commander decks in the first place before we see a reprint.
We'll see what they end up doing. Yeah, I just hope that at some point they do reprint it, because it is a pretty cool card. But yeah, it hasn't. I mean, in my experience, I don't think I've noticed it being an issue. I mainly play Commander and a very little bit of Pauper, but I haven't noticed an issue in many of the games I've played. Like sometimes, like somebody plays like a Universes Beyond card, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Can I take a look? But like it's mostly like a positive thing right now, I think, and I've enjoyed that. It's like card prices are an issue, but that can be said about products within Wizards' own IP, that just like cards can get crazy expensive. But yeah, like your experience been pretty much the same, Ron?
Yeah, I mean, I've personally been a fan of certain secret layers where I can fit them in, and especially if I really like the IP, like I also did miss out on that Fortnite Battle Royale, just because I think it's so goofy to be able to play these things. So I've definitely been a proponent of a lot of these, and we have another friend in our play group who actually built a Megatron deck, and that's kind of his high power deck when we want to bring out the big guns, and it's a really cool deck, and he somehow still managed to get it very flavorful because of all those secret layers that they released alongside. So he has Megatron in the command zone, but he can also bring out another Megatron from the deck because it's reskinned Blightsteel Colossus.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I think, I don't remember exactly what they reprinted, but everything in the deck that could go in there went in there, and it feels right. It doesn't feel like totally out of place, and I thought it's cool. And I've always been a person who's also kind of wanted to like proxy up different arts for my commanders. My one of the first precons I got was Davy. Sorry, it was Raynar, the Ever Watchful, who I proxied as Davy Jones from SpongeBob, and that made me love the deck so much.
No, I think it's the
more.
other way around. Your commander was Davy Jones, and you
Right.
at first had a proxy of Raynar for it.
Yeah, exactly.
That Davy Jones proxy was so good. I remember hating the deck, but loving the proxy so much.
Yeah, for real.
And that was back when we were like playing all lower power stuff. So I was like, I was mad about a Raynar deck. Like that was not even that bad.
I put a lot of powerful proxies in there. And that was like a huge warp in how we started playing.
Definitely.
Yeah, rings on the power creep.
So with our we don't have as much experience in this game as some people, but I'm curious, like with what we've seen in our time playing Magic and our time being like just aware, because I mean, if you think about it, basically the entire time we've been playing Magic the Gathering, Universes Beyond has existed in one form or another. And I know that, it's a fairly new thing. So what do you guys see moving forward with it? Like, has it been that big of an issue for you so far? Is it going to continue to be a good thing or a bad thing or change?
I think that it's kind of still too early to tell because they're pushing some of the products a little bit in weird directions.
Mm-hmm.
Like Secret Lairs and then doing a Universes Within, not so much of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
The reskins, definitely not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, you do bring up good points about, like, the Lord of the Rings set where we have an entire set that's going to be, like...
Modern legal.
Modern is an eternal format, so it's not that bad. But, like... I just think like some of the unique cards, like could become problematic for Universes Within down the line. But it's interesting is really what it is.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ron?
Sort of same here. I mean, I think I do have a bit of a speculation that I kind of may make. I don't know whether it's really going to happen, but I could potentially see it. Like we talked about Fortnite a bit, how eventually, Fortnite is sort of a catch-all sort of IP that has like a whole bunch of other things in it and sort of brings them together to give you these sort of fun, ridiculous moments. And I wouldn't be surprised if, Wizards of the Coast continues to lean into this and sort of maybe, while I don't think Magic the Gathering will get to the point where Fortnite is, where it's basically entirely comprised of other IPs and that basically is the story. I think that they definitely want to have these battles where I'm like, I'm going to play a deck where I can have, Daryl from The Walking Dead ride in Optimus Prime while shooting, while winning with a victory royale in Fortnite, and I can totally see people leaning into that. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
I don't want it to replace Magic's story, which I've grown to over the years. And I think that there is a lot of potential growth, and as I said, it's going to bring a lot of people in, so I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to lean into this and kind of don't hold the brakes, and maybe they'll get bigger and bigger properties, and one day they might get Disney to okay them on a Marvel Secret Lair or a DC Secret Lair from Warner Brothers.
With Lorcana coming up?
Well, I was going to say, I think Disney's a long shot just because they're doing their own TCG.
Fair.
But and if you look at some of the cards, it's like a kind of a very blatant Magic ripoff.
I haven't looked into it too much, so maybe Marvel might be a stretch, but still, you can get other really big IPs.
Oh, I mean, I would love to see like a Batman IP.
Have you guys watched the Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny, right?
Oh my god, yeah,
no?
dude.
You haven't?
No.
This is the ultimate showdown.
Dude, what?
Good guys, bad guys, and
I feel so lost.
I feel like you're the one person who should know about this. Like, this was a thing on YouTube.
Is that an old joke?
It wasn't even a joke. It's just that Cody's
No,
old.
he's just calling me old.
No, but it's like a classic old like
Dude,
YouTube
we're
video.
we're showing you after this. Like, it is like Ron knows, but like
Yeah, no, the
I
great,
could, I could
Oh,
see
man.
like that almost being like a game of Magic, where it's
Totally.
like you just have all these different IPs and crossovers just all fighting against each other, and one person standing at the end, like. But it gives me that kind of vibe, and there's something that I really do enjoy about that. I think there is so much good that can come from expanding this into other IPs and getting more just cool, unique cards that really signify specific characters that people have come to grow and love. And it's such a good entry point for people to get into Magic. I think there's a lot of positives to be taken away from it. I'm really wary about how this is going and how fast it's seeming to be moving. Like, it's just a few years ago, right? This was just an idea starting out. And it's gotten to the point where there are already we're pretty close to saying hundreds of unique
Warhammer alone.
Warhammer alone's over 100, but then we add in like Lord of the Rings, and then we add in Doctor Who, and then we add in Final Fantasy and whatever's next. And there are a few problems that I see coming with all of that. One is obviously the accessibility, but that's a problem that runs through all of Magic. Certain cards just don't get reprinted enough. There's the reserve list, which is never going to be reprinted, allegedly, except for proxies. But there's all kinds of stuff like that may or may not get reprints, and all kinds of like speculation that could happen on the market. And basically, Magic cards too expensive. And I don't think, while I love this idea or this in theory, I think there's just a lot more inaccessibility that comes with it. Like right now we can say like, oh, like I want to get this like Street Fighter card. It's like Ryu card for however much. I'm guessing it's not more than $10 right now, but we can look it up if you want. Let's say Ryu's like $5 right now, and someone's like, loves Street Fighter and is getting into Magic the Gathering, and they're like, great, let me pick up Ryu. But what's that going to look like in 10 years? Like, because of the vast volume of secret layers that are being printed, like maybe just all of them kind of tank in price at some point. But if one of these cards, what was it?
$3.50.
$3.50.
Although to be fair, that's a non-foil.
Yeah, but let's say $3.50.
Oh no, that's the foil.
Okay, great. That's
I mean the Pringle.
The Pringle is
Hey, mine's been living in a deck box.
so.
It's tight.
Someone's played Ryu all their life, whatever, and gets into Magic, and they can pick up Ryu for under $3. Like, awesome. That's amazing. And I love that for all of these. But I'm concerned that one day, and I don't know if it's going to be like distant or close or whatever, but it's just a concern that I have that one day this not mechanically unique, but unique character, because they can't reprint Ryu again unless they do another Street Fighter Secret Lair, is going to be really sought after because it was print to order, and asking a crazy high price for it. And you can get the non-Ryu version of it, but that person who like plays Street Fighter and wants to play with Ryu, like, okay, now are they going to drop $30, for example? This isn't necessarily real,
well,
but
I think, and we kind of touched on it in some other areas, but I think that with the Magic 30 issue where they printed out a bunch of proxies that were way overpriced, I think you're gonna see a shift in mentality for a lot of Magic players, and like accessibility might not even be that big of an issue. Where like if you have access to like a printer or a website, you know, you
Yeah.
can make a special version of it, if you will.
It's still a and I agree that like proxies should be more, I guess, accepted, and especially now that Wizards is trying to sell everyone proxies. But that's still a step that someone's gonna have to at some point learn about, right? Where if you're just starting getting into Magic and it's like I want Ryu, and it's like, okay, Ryu $3. Okay, here's $3. Give me Ryu. Great. Versus I want Ryu. Okay, Ryu $35. What? Magic cards can be that expensive? Like, and then it's like, am I
Well,
really wanting to get into this game? And it's almost like a point where it could be way more um, accessible regardless. They could design it to make it instantly accessible, um, or just have it printed more readily in some kind of non-print to order thing, which Ron had mentioned they may be changing to some extent.
I think with the announcement of the new Secret Lair commander deck that
Uh-huh.
they're producing, yeah, they want to avoid what happened with the coin flip deck,
Which took like a year to.
a little over a year to ship to my
Jeez.
house. Yeah.
well, I was also gonna say I don't know if you've noticed, but in a lot of like LGSs, they have like a box of secret layer envelopes, where they're just sealed and
Yeah, I've noticed that.
I've seen
so
them
like
around.
they're kind of like even the secret layers are kind of becoming a little more accessible even after the fact. Like we might start seeing some stuff like that going on too, where
If secret layers like start to lower in value on a mass scale, I think that would be like, I mean, probably wouldn't be good for Wizards of the Coast in their future prospects for printing more secret layers, but I think it would be great for accessibility purposes. Like now, getting a secret layer goes from like, oh, do I want to like wait 3 or 4 months and drop like $40, $50, 30, $40, whatever it is, versus like maybe you go to an LGS, they have the secret layer and they're selling it for like whatever people will buy it for.
I think
And
it's like 45 at the moment.
Depends on which one, really.
yeah, it
Yeah.
depends on which one, reprints, but if it starts to get to that point, like I'm all for like bunch of secret layers, bunch of universes beyond, like available for really cheap. The I guess the concern that I have moving forward is how they're gonna manage that, because there's a lot of ways where if they just kind of say whatever, like problems start arising. Already there's a lot of like um, just additional confusion added to certain cards with potentially them changing certain creature types, and like we were saying in a practical game of Magic the Gathering, that could cause like certain creatures that have different types to be considered the same type, and there's a lot of cards that care about creature types. Same can be said for taking cards out of a deck that have a certain name, like there's like a card that costs like 1 black Phyrexian mana, and it's like remove all versions of, or all of the cards with the same name from a deck. You know what I'm talking about?
Surgical extraction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that applies if you have like which one did you say this was?
That was Blanca.
If you have a Blanca and you have a Howling Abomination of the deck, now you surgical extraction someone who has both in the deck, but they're like, oh, they're different names, but technically under the rules, at least I think they're the same name, right? So surgical extraction would.
Yeah, but that's really only a problem for what, two formats, I want to say, Legacy and Vintage. Where you can actually run four of them in a deck if possible.
I guess tabletop, like, or just like not like kitchen table Magic. It's just kind of like whatever goes, and who maybe sometimes it's fine if people don't know the the Howling Abomination is the same as Blanca.
Kitchen Table was how I got into it,
Right.
and we played with rules that like are definitely not rules.
Yeah.
And you just made do with it, and it like you kind of end up balancing it out anyway.
And you learn and
Yeah,
grow
and
anyways,
as you get more like into the game and like playing with wider people, like you really do just learn so much about it.
Um, yeah, and the deeper you get into it, the more you learn, the more you are comfortable researching, and honestly, I think the more money you're willing to spend. But it really is like the people just getting into the game, which I'd be more worried about with this, like just I maybe like showing a negative light right off the bat about the game as a whole, and like kind of how expensive cards can be sometimes. So, but again, like I think that's one problem I have. I don't think it's definitely going to be an issue. I think if certain things aren't thought about, if certain considerations aren't made, there it could potentially spiral off into an issue there.
Well, and I also had another thought about it because you were talking about creature types. There's tons of cards in the history of Magic that have all been mass errataed
That's
to
true.
change their type.
That's
Phyrexian,
Ape, right?
Falcons.
ape and monkey versus like summon gorillas.
Yeah.
I have
Hounds are all dogs, right?
Yeah, I have my bird deck once
Eagles
again.
and falcons are
Falcons,
birds.
like I have my commander Soraya the Falconer. It says on there Falcons get +1/+1. That has been changed to now say birds get +1/+1.
So it's not even uncommon for things in the history of Magic to go back and mass errata to fit, a new mechanic that's coming out. So, like in the future when, if they reprint these Astartes creatures, or if they just want to go back and change the creature type so that, it can be more applicable with something else, like soldier or knight or something to that effect.
I think this kind of takes me into my second concern that I have about all of this is the confusion that comes from it. And right now, we're pretty versed in everything. Generally, we can do a Google search if we don't know something and figure out what it means. Is it another version of this card? Is it something completely different? Has something been errated? All of that stuff. But I think it's something that you bring up is there's already a lot of confusing things in Magic the Gathering and in Commander specifically. Even like reading the card in certain cases doesn't always explain the card. Like what's the card that I got? It's like Blessing or something, and it just has like 1 white mana, and then it just says +1/+1. And it does, like it just says that in the rules text and nothing.
That's like an old card.
I know. I'm just using it as an example because I like that card. But like, there's already so much confusion in Magic. Is it a good thing to move forward and continue to add more confusion and more creature type changes and more the same card printed twice but with different names, and they don't say they're the same card but they technically are? Like, it's kind of one of those things where right now, like I mentioned, there's no problems. Like I don't think any of us have had, and I could be wrong, like maybe there's something that someone listening has had a issue with, and I'd be curious to hear about that. So you should definitely reach out to us in one of our various ways. But I've never had an experience where it's like, oh, this is a Universes Beyond card that I have a problem with, on a logistic scale or otherwise. But if the trend keeps continuing, more Universes Beyond cards keep getting printed, more mechanically unique cards get printed, things get reprinted, they have different names. Now, I mean, I could see the game maybe kind of turning into a bit of a mess down the line with just if it keeps happening, and in mass. Another layer to this that I just want to add on real quick is that we already have certain cards that have different names, but mechanically do the same thing, like Village Rights and Corrupted Conviction. Uh, Essentially the exact same card with different names, but you can add 4 each of those into a deck, whereas some of these Secret Lair Universes Beyond versus Universes Within cards, you can only have a total of 4 in a deck. With this kind of with both things continuing to happen and this kind of just continuing to be more and more of a trend, I think the biggest concern I have is that things just start to become like, you need like the internet to build your deck. Like we kind of do already, but like you need it to like determine how many of this card can I have. Is this the same card as this card? Does it count? People could make errors in deck building, and that could cause certain in Commander or otherwise just game outcomes to happen that wouldn't normally happen. It's another thing I'm concerned about with this whole thing.
I don't know. Yeah, like one interesting thing that I was kind of thinking about in regards to the problems you were saying is, I think there may actually be a solution to all of this. Wizards of the Coast, if you hear this and you like this, reach out to us, sponsor us, let us work for you. That'd be awesome.
Can we have free cardboard?
Please. But what if Universes Beyond became its own regularly released set, just like modern sets or something?
Oh, or like what about the core sets that were released? Are you talking just like more reprints?
Or basically, yeah, like reprints of all the old available secret lairs to like the Walking Dead and stuff, and they can also reintroduce new cards through that. And because it's so readily available, you don't need to reprint them in other sets with different names.
So that was the initial issue: is they only have these IPs for a certain amount of time or for a certain product release, right?
So I do actually have an idea that's kind of I think would fix this and be very simple to do. So like with the reskins, there's typically a box underneath the name of the card that says what card it's replacing for inside of Magic's universe. So I think on like these secret layers or like the commander decks, you could put down like a name that you're going to give it for universes within, like under the card name. So then like, as you pull these cards, it says, like let's use the Stranger Things one for example. There's Will the Wise, and then underneath it would say, what's the one card? It's Warnog. And so automatically you're getting the secret lair. There's no confusion that this is going to be Warnog.
Yeah, if they had the name even printed on the secret layer of what the Universes Within counterpart would be, or one or the other has the name on it, that would, I feel like, solve all of that.
And they wouldn't even have to, like have the cards ready to be printed for Universes Within. Just give it a name that you would call it. And
so one thing I'm noticing, I actually looked up Wernog and Will the Wise, and it's not as clear as actually having a name, which I think would be the most optimal solution. But in the bottom left corner on Will the Wise, it says 347 SLD, which is secret lair drop, and I think the distinction's just number 347. On Wernog, it says equals SLD 347, which is a way that you can tell, but would not be like...
It's not intuitive.
It's not intuitive at all. It's like a marker for like if somebody actually was like, oh no, like see, and on this you'll see equals on the bottom. We have what card is that, Ron?
In Blanca, Ferocious, whatever. But the card I'm looking at now is the Howling Abomination.
The Howling Abomination, yeah. On the bottom of that it says equals
equals SLD 431.
Yep. So it's a distinction that they have chosen to put on the card, but I don't think it's enough of one. And I think what you're saying with the names would really help that out, at least to just get rid of some of the confusion that could come from this all moving forward. I like the idea too of at some point in time releasing a whole, because there is probably enough to release a whole set of Universes Within counterparts of cards, or maybe like some kind of like bundle thing that has like all of these universes within reprints. Because then the accessibility at least is a little more available, and maybe potentially they could have like some kind of literature in that bundle that could be like, okay, the Howling Abomination equals Blanca, or whatever the counterpart, Will the Wise equals Wernock, just so that people getting that product can know what cards they're coming from. I really like, again, I love the Universes Beyond idea and how it grows the whole community, and I love just like mashing up random things in weird ways. But yeah, I hope that it continues on a positive trend and a positive path, and things are being considered, because I think walking down this path, you need to be very careful with what gets printed and how. Do you guys have anything else to throw in about what like advantages, disadvantages you think could come from the future of universes beyond?
I mean, I'm liking these commander decks. I think they do a really good job like balancing them, and I think that it offers opportunities to reprint a lot of like staples that are like extra valuable, that they can kind of bring the price down a little, or like just give it a functional reprint, if you will.
Yeah.
And personally, like, I think that the Secret Lair and like the Commander decks offer like a different point too that we kind of didn't bring up, where you're guaranteed to get these cards, whereas like when you do it in like a standard set or anything like that, you're gambling to get the card.
So it still may not be as accessible as you might want it to be.
Yeah.
Like with the Transformer sets, if you were hunting down a specific card, you had to crack a lot of packs.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Whereas like a Secret Lair or the Commander decks, you just go in and buy the deck and you have it already.
I do like that there are, at least to some extent, products offered that are you know what you're getting right away. There's no gambling aspect to it. And I think that's good that they're offering those. Yeah. Hopefully they can continue to offer those at reasonable prices.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
We'll see. I mean, yeah. But to go back to the question, the only kind of concern I have going forward, because, outside of a gameplay standpoint, what is, like if Wizards of the Coast does decide to go a lot more into the universes beyond and decide to make it, let's say, a core set or whatever, or if they decide to focus printing more of these, at what point is it going to cost the original sort of story and IP of Magic the Gathering itself that has, so many decades of lore built up to it?
Well, with printing universes within cards, I would assume it's like a story separate product, like
Yeah.
I'm just making assumptions on an assumption, but like
Right.
if they were to like continue to reprint universes within cards at a reasonable amount, like I would assume that it wouldn't have to directly tie in with the story, but yeah, at some point, like you're just gonna see mass volumes of like, I mean, I don't even know where the Howling Abomination is from story-wise, but like,
Yeah, it's just
supposed
like,
to be
like this human mutant monster thing.
yeah, and it's
fighting
considered
some
a human
elves.
still, which is weird. But
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that was a bit of an interesting
Maybe
Artois thing.
Ikoria. I don't know. That
It
that
gives
one's a
me-
hard one.
Does Ikoria have elves?
it gives me like in elves. I think okay, if this has
Stranger
elves
Things
in
is
it-
Innistrad. I do know that one.
right.
Yeah.
It has that general vibe. This one is so generic
I mean,
though.
'cause
Like
this
maybe
is also all
Dominaria.
OB1,
Yeah.
so maybe Mirrodin?
I could see Dominaria. probably,
Dominaria
like-
makes sense. It looks like it's probably Dominaria.
I think maybe the Howling Abomination might be the wrong one to try to figure out, because like
Fair.
there were the other Secret
Yeah,
Lair
right.
ones, the other Street Fighter cards that were also reprinted that
No,
might
I
give
think
us
we
a
need
better
to.
clue.
I think the Howling Abomination is the one we need to figure out. Actually, this art is so. It looks like a crab, but it doesn't have the crab creature type. Anyways, yeah, it might be cool to figure out where they're from, but
These look pretty Dominaria.
yeah, they look kind of generically Dominaria.
Looking at Zephy,
yeah.
Arcane Blade Master, who is the proxy of Chun-Li.
I was looking at the Ryu proxy or the Ryu universes within.
Yeah, I'm like,
Vikia.
yeah, this one, Zephy, Arcane Blade Master, still a human soldier. You know, she looks like some kind of like spell blade or some two swords, and there's a book. You know, it looks pretty Dominaria.
Yeah, but yeah, basically they could just make all of these universes within things just like things on Dominaria, and I think people would be like, "Oh, okay, that's Magic the Gathering enough."
Yeah.
If you guys don't have any other thoughts on like the advantages and disadvantages, I wanted to end on kind of an interesting question that I want to ask you guys. So I want to know, like, if you had to choose 3 universes beyond things that happen next, what would you choose? And it doesn't have to be in any particular order. You want to start, Cody?
I mean, first one off the top of my head would be Batman. I just think like the villains, the heroes, the way that it's all set up would be just incredible, and you can make some very like unique cards that also still fit mechanically with Magic without like breaking anything.
Yeah.
That's just the first one that comes to mind. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. You kind of put us on the spot.
I did. What about you, Ron? Do you have any?
One that I thought of, I think Mortal Kombat would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it'd be very fitting, kind of like Street Fighter, but the art seems a bit more in line,
Yeah.
I don't know how gory they'd be allowed to get with it, but I think they have some creative
surgical
liberties.
Extraction is a card.
Yeah, they've got some pretty creepy, pretty mature art. So, yeah, I think it'd be awesome to have, like I mentioned, Mono Red Scorpion, Mono Blue Sub-Zero.
Could you imagine if they reprinted Surgical Extraction, but it's Sub-Zero's Fatality?
Just pulling out
out someone's spine.
Yeah, so many really cool things you can do with that. So that's one that I thought of.
Mortal Kombat would be amazing. How about we do this? We just kind of rotate around until we run
let's
out
just
of
bounce
ideas.
around. Yeah, and it's funny because both Batman and Mortal Kombat is the same, Warner Brothers. So if they got access to one, they could do the other.
I mentioned this to you guys earlier. I would love to see some kind of Metroid secret lair because I've really been into the old Metroid games recently. I feel like there's such a deep kind of atmosphere and lore that they could build off to make some extremely cool cards, like everything from equipment to different creature types to just all kinds of like unique things. And that one would definitely be a little. I mean, like, I don't know if Nintendo would be too keen on.
Yeah, they're pretty tight with their IP.
But yeah, I'd love to see something with Metroid in it. Samus particularly.
I just kind of thought about it, but I think like a One Punch Man would be really funny and cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Like,
that's cool.
There's a lot of different ways that you could go about it. You could do some monsters. You could do some humans with, like weird ability. They have like robots too, like constructs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be a really interesting one that would be kind of funny.
Oh my god, could you imagine if they like made like what's the main character?
Saitama?
Like as soon as he hits you, you lose the game. Like you just combat damage, you're dead.
Or he just has like 20 power.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I thought of one, Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars
would be really cool. I actually saw one thing. I don't remember the name of it, but someone made their own set block of Star Wars, and they have like links so that you can proxy it all up and everything. Mm-hmm. And from what I heard, it's really fleshed out. They have like Bant Jedi, which is blue, green, white, red, black, blue, Grixis, Sith Lords, and then there's like 5-color Republic, and it's just kind of, you can build all these archetypes, like black, blue, white, the CIS, the Confederacy, for Esper. Yeah, I don't know. It's I could see so much with that, and I'm just such a Star Wars nerd. Too.
Star Wars would be incredible, but that's another Disney one that'd probably be pretty hard to get.
That's probably gonna be in
Locked behind,
Locked behind the mouse's key.
Yeah, the mouse's vault.
The mouse's vault. One of the ones I was thinking of after you said One Punch Man is like I would love to see a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Would be
Secret
so
Lair.
cool.
No.
Like
It
the
would be-
stands.
The stands. I know the stands could be auras. Like,
my
Or you
God.
and you could only equip one of them at a
Or,
time.
or you
something.
could do like choose a stand.
Yes,
like
command
with the
zone
backgrounds.
auras. Oh my god. Oh, I'm so excited for this JoJo's Bizarre Adventure that doesn't exist.
I
in
think there
Magic.
should be a counter spell called Mura Mura Mura.
There's so much you could do with that too because they like there's so many characters and each one is like has unique powers and are so developed and even so many like different eras of that show where it goes from like just completely different stuff going on. So I think that'd be such a deep one to explore.
Elder Scrolls would be a cool one.
Oh my
don't get me
God.
started, boy.
You could have
Don't
a
get
card
me
that
started.
has wares if you have coin.
Oh my god.
I mean, there could be like a whole like construct thing with the Dwemer, and
Yep.
there could be like like all the different factions of the races, like orcs. Those are things that are not too friendly. They could maybe just reflavor Khajiit's cats. As well.
Oh yeah.
And you have all the different types of humans, and maybe there can be unique subtypes like like Nord human or like Imperial human, Redguard human, whatever.
Definitely.
One that I actually, I literally
had
just
it?
I had it for a brief moment and it vanished. Oh, GI Joe. I'm a big fan of G.I. Joe. That was one of like my original favorite things. They already got Transformers down, which was another childhood classic of mine. But G.I. Joe doesn't need to be a set, doesn't need to be Commander decks, just like a secret lair. Give me
Yeah.
Snake Eyes, give me Duke, give me Cobra Commander, give me Destro, Storm Shadow. Let's go. That's 5 cards and maybe like a Scarlet Secret for the secret card or something. Like it's classic. It's cool. Yeah. Just personal preference.
One of the things I was thinking of, and I think it'd be like a total sellout, but I almost want to see it because it would be as a Monopoly secret lair or like a Monopoly Universes Beyond.
I would buy. I think I showed you. I found a deck box on Ultra Pro that looked like the jail thing, and I wanted to do that for my Azorius deck, but it sold out before I pulled the trigger. But yeah, I'm thinking of all the like smothering type stuff, things you can do with like treasures.
Yeah, you
Community chest.
Dice rolling.
all kinds of lands. Could you imagine if you have like 3 lands that like kind of like the what are Tron lands, like the Earth lands, but like you have them as properties.
Oh,
my
so you have like
God, that's so
Boardwalk
good.
Yeah,
and like
Boardwalk
Park Place.
Right, and if you have both of them on the board, they like give you a lot of resources or something.
Oh my God, that would be great.
That would be amazing.
You know what
I just realized
I
that.
think it'd be cool, but I think realistically what they would do is something almost like attractions where it's like
separate deck?
not necessarily a separate deck, but cards that are be like on each person's upkeep, you roll a die, and based off of what cards you have in play, it'll make it more or less likely that they land on it. That will give you some advantage.
Do you guys ever play Monopoly Deal?
Is that the card one?
That's the card
I
game.
played
Okay.
one time with you and your friend.
Yeah, you've brought it over a couple times.
There's a lot. I play that card game, and I just like. There's so many times where I like start thinking about like, ooh, this card says like draw a card. This is like a blue card. And I'm like,
It says
what if,
draw code.
like,
It
what
must
if,
be magic.
What if like they like directly converted like those concepts to like pass go draw a card? It's like a blue like brainstorm type thing or something.
Oh man.
I think Monopoly has a lot of like potential and be goofy, sell-outy kind of thing that I'd actually kind of be like, I love it.
Is it Hasbro's property too?
I believe Monopoly is Hasbro. I think that's one of their bigger ones, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, any final ones you guys can think of? I'm sure after we stop recording.
Yeah,
we'll
they're
think of
all
of
going to
them.
come to me
Yeah.
after we're done recording.
Yeah,
Right?
Maybe we'll have to like post some stuff about which ones we really wanted to.
Maybe.
Tell us which
Yeah.
secret or which universes beyond IPs you'd like to see.
Yeah, send us those with whatever we end up having as a messaging platform.
Comment, like, subscribe, email, share,
Retweet.
Message in a bottle.
Message in a bottle. Yeah.
hit up our DMs.
Give us a carrier pigeon. And
throw a brick through our window.
Yeah, play a boombox outside. Like,
in the rain.
Get the message across somehow, and maybe we'll bring that up in a future episode. But yeah, I think that's all we got today for Universes Beyond. Definitely a big subject, and we'll have to see how it moves forward. But I'm excited to see what happens next.
So excited for these new Doctor Who decks. I really just can't even begin.
Yes, let's see if we can't recreate the ultimate showdown of Ultimate Destiny.
Yes. Oh my God, we're gonna go show Cody that right now. All right, this is us signing out. See you later.
Later.
In a while.
Bye.